And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Quivz here. Quivz Does stuff. Today I'm going to be playing a little bit of Space Engineers from the beginning of a custom game where we will be landing on an Earth-like planet in a drop pod and showing you how to get a base started. Now, this will probably end up being an actual Let's Play series, but could also absolutely use it as a bit of a tutorial on the first introductory sort of couple of hours worth of gameplay in Space Engineers. It's not a very fast game, it's a very good game. It is made by some company whose name I can't remember. Keen Software House, that's who it is. Up there in the top right corner, which I didn't really see. But yes, they've made this. They made Medieval Engineers, and they've kind of abandoned it. They got a reasonable distance with Medieval Engineers and then decided that it's too much. We're spread too thin. Space Engineers is suffering, and Space Engineers is the superior, more mature product. They brought Medieval Engineers out of early access and just called it a 1.0, and then basically stopped updating it. They will more than likely make a Medieval Engineers 2 or something like it, maybe change the name, in the future when Space Engineers has run its full course. But it wouldn't surprise me to see a Space Engineers 2 as well, because it's a pretty old game now. You still need a pretty powerful computer to run it with everything turned on, because it is a extreme game, like the amount of things that the game is keeping track of. And if you can see this splash screen as I'm playing, like, this is all gameplay. There's no cutscenes here. This is what it's like to play Space Engineers. You can play multiplayer, you can play single player, you can play PvP, you can play cooperative. You can build so many things. The game takes into account other things like air pressure, wind, gravity, all those things are simulated. But that's enough about what it is. We'll just get into it now. So there are scenarios that are sort of story scenarios. If you'd actually like to see me play through one of the story scenarios, you can actually find that in a much older video on my YouTube channel. If you're on my YouTube channel, just search through my videos for Space Engineers and you'll find that, because this will be this that you're currently watching is the only other video at the moment, although I do intend there to be more of these. But what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be playing a custom planet. Now again, even on the custom game, there are assorted starts, like different places you can start. So you can start on an alien planet with this pretty big base and some pre-made ships, or this crashed red ship. That's a pretty cool start. You start on an asteroid, and there's a red ship that's basically plowed into the asteroid at full speed, and that's all you've got to begin. Earth planet, again, similar to the alien planet, it's a pretty big base. It's got a whole bunch of pre-made ships and things that you can use. Green station, that's in space. Lone Survivor's pretty good. You start with no ships, but like all the basic stuff that you need. You've got a refinery and an assembler. If you don't know what those are, you'll learn as we go along and play the game. Mars planet. Now, these planets make a difference because they have differing amounts of oxygen and stuff, and some of them have wildlife on them depending on the settings that you make, but I'm going to be turning that stuff off for this Let's Play series. I'm going to be adjusting a few of the settings, which is why I'm playing a custom game, so I'll show you that. Pertam Orbiter's a new one. I hadn't seen that before. Red Ship is actually the same start as Lone Survivor, except you start with a drill ship, a construction ship, and a deconstruction ship, and a massive cruiser with, I believe, a hyperdrive. But we're not going to do that. We're going to start in an empty star system. So there's nothing. That's just you start. I will show you when we get into there. We're going to go into the advanced world settings. Now these are the default advanced world settings. I'm not going to change these because these are sort of the most fun way to play the game, but you can increase your level of difficulty by, for example, making your inventory size realistic, which means you can carry like 5-6 liters worth of stuff and like a few kilos worth of stuff, and then you're overweight. It severely limits the speed at which you can progress in the game. It's not very fun to watch at that level. It can be fun to play if you like difficulty, but yeah, it's really slow. So I'm going to leave all of this stuff as it is. Asteroid amount, infinite density, infinite normal density. Sound mode, I'm going to leave it arcade. You can put the sound mode into realistic, and then there's no sounds in space. Like, you have to be touching the thing that the sound is coming from before the vibration actually vibrates against your suit, and then you can hear it, which I think is really cool that they've actually simulated that. But in arcade, you can just hear sounds in space, even though you wouldn't be able to hear sounds in space. Unlimited world size views, since that's cool. All of this is fine. I'm not going to touch any of this, but then it's when we get down here. So thruster damage. So thruster flames deal damage to blocks, players, and small objects. It's great from a simulation perspective. From an actual gameplay perspective, it is unnecessarily makes it harder to play. It is absolutely fantastic that it can be simulated. I'm not going to simulate it. I'm going to leave weapons enabled, blah, 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 blah. All of this I'm going to leave. Spawn with tools. I'm going to turn drones off because they're annoying. They start way too early, in my opinion, and start trying to kill you. So drones are drone ships, and they will come and try and kill you. Spiders happen only on planets, and they are mean and horrible, and they start too early and come and try and kill you. If you want a real hardcore game experience, absolutely enable drones or spiders or both. This is supposed to be more of a how to... You could still play the game with those and use what I'm about to show you as a guide on how to begin, but I'm going to turn them off for the purposes of this. There are some stuff that is still experimental, so you have to turn on experimental mode in game options to enable. Super gridding, I don't know what it is. Bounty contracts, I will turn that off. That will also be... It'll basically tell you, go and kill this ship and I'll give you money. The economy, I don't know whether the economy really works. I think it does. There are like places on planets where you can go and trade for things. I'm going to turn that off because, especially in this kind of single player game that I'm about to play, you'll just end up with a whole bunch of these credits taking up inventory space. It doesn't weigh anything, it's just an annoyance to actually have it there. I'm going to leave the weather on because that's a relatively new addition to the simulation, and it does add to the game by affecting power generation, especially in the early game on planets. Wolves are similar to spiders. I'm going to leave them off as well. It's too much too early in the game. It happens really early. Adaptive simulation quality. So if your frames start struggling, it'll actually adjust the amount of simulation that's happening around you to speed up the frames again. And you can go into experimental mode and turn that off and play at slideshow speeds if you really, really want to. I'm pretty sure I've got the graphics maxed on my 2080 Super. Cargo ships I'm going to leave on. Delete the respawn ship. I'm not going to do that because it's just not necessary. The other one you might want to change, and that doesn't... It's not great, but it can affect your early game, is environmental hostility. You can turn on normal, cataclysmic, or Armageddon if you want Armageddon. That actually just gives you a frequency and intensity of meteor showers. So meteors will fall from the sky and land near you or frickin' on your base and destroy huge chunks of your base. The default is safe. I'm going to leave it at the default for now. Day duration of 2 hours is good because that's about... You don't want it too much longer than that. You don't want it too much shorter than that. I mean, you can make it 1 hour, and that's pretty good as well. So over the course of this tutorial, it's likely that we'll only see a single day. So that's everything that I'm going to set up in the advanced. The game, you can get mods. I have no mods, and you have to turn on experimental. You can play the game in creative. You can play it in online or offline. You can make it private, friends only, or just public. You can increase the max players to, I don't know, to 8, apparently. But yeah, we're not going to do that. We're just going to play it offline. Call it whatever you want, give it a description. I'm not going to bother doing those either because I've cleared all my previous save games because none of them was I so attached to that I care. I tend to restart, play Space Engineers for like a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and then just ditch the game and start a new one the next time I play, which is probably every 2 to 3 months. I'll play Space Engineers for a big chunk. Alright, let's begin. So now when you start, it's going to give you an option of places to spawn. And this is a whole solar system, so it contains all the planets. So there's an Earth-like planet, there's a moon, there's an alien-like planet, there's like Titan, there's Triton, Europa, Pertam, and they give you a difficulty rating above every drop pod. So Earth-like drop pod, easy. There's 90% oxygen, so you can breathe just by walking around. You can take your helmet off if you want. Mars, no oxygen. It's not that hard on Mars either, though. It's still normal. Aliens still normal. There's only 10% oxygen, but that's not enough to walk around without your mask on. The gravity is, pardon me, slightly higher, which means it's actually harder to break atmosphere on that planet. Titan, no oxygen, very little gravity. Moon, no oxygen, very little gravity. Triton, basically another Earth. It is just like Earth. I've never actually done a Triton. Do I want to do a Triton? I could do a Triton. Well, I don't know Triton, so let's not do that. We did say Earth-like, and I've done all the tags and stuff for the YouTube video. Europa, very much like a moon. Hard. Pertram, oxygen 80%. Planet gravity 1.2 G. And hard. I don't know why it's hard. And then you can just spawn in space, in a space pod, and you can use asteroids and stuff in space, and maybe choose the moon and things like that. I find that to be even more difficult than landing on things. And spacesuit, you could just spawn in a spacesuit with nothing, which is basically impossible. You can't actually do anything. So Earth-like drop pod is where we're going to start. And then you just hit respawn. You can go back to... There's other stuff here, but if this is the first time you're playing the game, what I would recommend you do is just go Earth-like drop pod. Put your settings the way I showed you the settings in the advanced settings when I chose custom game, and hit respawn. And down to the planet we go. We will spawn in this drop pod, falling from the sky. Now don't worry too much about it. So this is an exterior view. You cannot control this. Oh, I'm going to land right on a mountain. This is a horrible place to start. Now, in situations like this, it's very tempting to just restart, because down there on that plane would be preferable. This is a really terrible place to begin. Alright, third person. I don't want third person. I want third person. So V will toggle you in and out of first and third person. I also recommend immediately pressing J to open your helmet because you're on an Earth-like planet. What a slope to start on. This is a horrible place to begin. This is awful. You might get a better place to start than this, but you could get an awful place like this to start. When we get to start making vehicles, this is going to define what sort of vehicle we make. Normally your first vehicle would be a wheeled vehicle, but in this case, even our first vehicle is going to have to be a flying vehicle because we are on the side of a mountain, unless I just restart. I'm going to restart. So this can happen, especially if it's your first game. You can get a horrible start. And in this case, that is a start that I wouldn't want to play, and I certainly don't want it as an example of how to play the game because it's not a typical start. So we're going to have to do all of this again. Hopefully I can get it done quickly. So I want thruster damage off, I want drones off, I want bounty contracts off, and disable the economy. I think that's it. Hopefully that was it and I didn't miss anything. And then we can hit start again and see, maybe we'll get a better landing. Like, it's okay to be on a bit of a slope, but being like up a mountain like that was not ideal. That is a pretty horrible place to begin. So we will try for a better spawn than that one, because that was just a horrible, horrible, horrible spawn. See, that's fine. Like, I don't know where this is, but that, okay, this is the middle of the plains. This is pretty idyllic. I think we're still at a pretty high altitude. Yeah, we're on the top of a plateau. So we're still at a high altitude, but this is a bit of flatness. You know, I'll be able to build a wheeled vehicle at some point soon, which will be good from the point of view of a tutorial style thing. Like, I'll be able to show you how to do that and not be in a position where that's totally useless. Now, you don't want to press any buttons while you're... Oh, don't roll over. There we go. Cool. I was going to say the landing gear should eventually grab, but yeah, it took a little bit. Alright. So don't press F and jump out of the ship too early, because you can get hurt that way. Wait until it's landed and stop rolling. Right. Now, let's have a basic look at the ship. So this here is the survival pod, survival kit. This is the sort of control panel of the survival kit here on the side. You can see it through this gap in the framework. Now, this is a voxel-based game. So this entire ship is made up of little pieces. You can see how it highlights little just blocks. That's because all of this is just made up of little blocks, and each little block can be taken apart. Now, the survival kit is pretty cool and unique in that it allows you to create basic resources and basic components for construction out of rock. Just literally the rock in the ground. Now, the other thing you can make basic components out of is you don't need everything on this ship. So I can, using my grinder, deconstruct that, and now in my inventory I have one steel plate. With one steel plate, I can create a block, or at least the framework for a block. Now I'm gonna press P here with a block selected. So again, like Minecraft, I've got a set of stuff on my quick bar at the bottom. Because I've selected the generic light armor block, if I use my scroll wheel, I'll actually scroll through every shape of light armor block available to me in the game. Those are the shapes in the middle right. You can actually see what those shapes are. But yeah, we're just going to go with squares for now. I'm going to press P, and I'm going to give it a color, because I'm going to give my base a color because I want it to look like something, and I'm going to use the clean armor because it looks the best. I'm going to go down here onto this more flat spot to build my base. I'm going to stick it as far into the ground as I can, and I'm going to place my first block. That looks nothing like the block, right? And that's because it's not constructed. So you need to use the welder, which is 1. So 1 is your welder, 2 is your grinder, and 3 is your drill. With the welder selected, in the middle right, but at the bottom of the middle right, you can see components and required. And if you can maybe read it, it's pretty small, but it says steel plate, from top to bottom, steel plate 0.5, and then steel plate 1 of 20. Now, if you look on the left-hand side of that little box, it's got a percentage of how much of percentage has been constructed. And then it's got a little red bar that says functional. So the block is not functional as a proper block until that point. It still exists. It still adds structural stability to things. Like, I can add other blocks to this block and they will stick to this block. But it is not a functional block until I've gotten to that particular percentage. And that is the... If you look at the bottom steel plates, so everything actually works from the bottom up for the purposes of construction. If you look at the bottom, steel plates 1 of 20. If I have 20 steel plates, this will be functional. If I have 25 steel plates, the extra 0.5 at the top, that will be 100%. Right, so now I could continue to just take blocks off this and get 20 blocks, and that would work, and it wouldn't take me that long. But instead I'm going to demonstrate the survival kit. Now, the survival kit has 2 things that it does. First of all, the way this pod is set up, the survival kit will supply you with oxygen. So if you're wearing your helmet, you will eventually run out of oxygen if you just don't do anything. Oh, actually, I think it's still... It doesn't, because you're in an oxygen environment, having your helmet on doesn't actually make any difference. I just take the helmet off because I take the helmet off. If you were in space, that would provide you with oxygen. All you have to do is highlight it, this, and press F, and you'll hear that noise. Now that will recharge your batteries, which you use for things like your drill and your grinder and the welder It also provides heating to the suit, so if you're on an extremely cold planet or in the depths of space and you run out of energy, you will slowly die because you have no energy to provide heat. The other thing you can do is you can also get back into the chair by highlighting the chair and pressing F. And that will do the same thing because the chair is connected to the survival kit. Now, the other thing the survival kit has is this inventory, and we'll get to that in a moment. So, drill out. I want to make a hole, and I want to do it near to the survival pod. So I'm going to need to crouch for this so I can reach the actual soil. And this topsoil is soil and won't provide rock. So I want to right-click. So right-click allows you to dig a tunnel. So there, that I've made an indent now. That's my first thing. It's about to make a lot of noise as well, I should point out. Right, so that's the drill noise. You'll get used to that playing Space Engineers. Now, right-click allows you to make a tunnel. So it won't harvest resources. It'll just make a hole that you can actually progress through. Like it makes a tunnel, literally a tunnel. It also digs a big hole. It's not a small hole. Now, if you left-click, and now that we're at rock, so this is rock. You see how the texture changed from this green grassy stuff to this soily dirt stuff? If I now left-click, these resources will drop, and you can press F to pick that up. And if I look in my inventory, I now have 94 kilograms worth of stone, 34 liters. Obviously, as a real human being, I would not be able to carry 94. Well, I mean, I'd be able to carry 94 kilos, but I'd be struggling. So if you'd set things to realistic, that would be all you could carry. You would literally be overweight now. Right, so you want to dig for a little bit. Now these stones will all just collect at the bottom of this hole and sit there. Now, you'll notice it's getting a bit dark. So if you want, you can press L to turn your suit's lights on. And then press F to pick up all this stone. You'll see the texture of the rock is now changing as well. It's actually getting even stonier. That's just a thing that happens because the game simulates different kinds of rock at different depths. I believe this is the last kind of rock that you get though. Like once you're in this sort of veiny, silicaceous rock, it doesn't actually get any better than that. So you keep doing this. Now, you'll notice just above my quick bar, there's a bar that is getting... It starts off blue and it goes red as it fills. That is your weight bar. It lets you know how much more you can carry and how much... Sort of gives you an indication of how much you're currently carrying. So I basically just want to keep picking up rock until the nice lady tells me that my inventory is full. Come up out of the hole. Let's see, how much did I get? So 3,000 kilos. That's obviously well above what a human could carry. 3 tons I'm walking around with. Anyway, once you do have that... Oh, your energy will drain faster using the lights as well. I should point that out. Once you have that, you can press F on the survival kit here at the back, and it'll give you the survival kit's inventory. So now this window... let's just show that first. Okay. Character inventory, show inventory of item interacted with or corpse, right? So that's you on the left. And that's the inventory of the thing you've clicked on the right. You can click this. And that'll show you every inventory attached to the thing that you're looking at. So this is every inventory on that drop pod. Now, why is there a top inventory and a bottom inventory for the survival kit? You'll see this says parachute hatch. There's an O2 and an H2 generator. There's a small cargo container, and the passenger seat actually has a gun and a couple of magazines in it. So that's because the survival kit is actually a production facility. It can produce both ingots for construction of raw components and those raw components. So you're going to drag the stone across. Now it has a limited volume. It can fit 1,000 liters. That is 1,000 liters. 2,702.7 kilograms of stone is 1,000 liters. Right, so what you want to do now is up the top here, all of these things. So let's hit production. This is the production screen of the survival kit. These are all the things that it can make. Very limited number of components, and it can make ingots and you'll see that the resource required for ingots is stone. So if you click it once, it'll do it once. If you control click it, it'll do it 10 times. If you shift click it, it'll do it 100 times. Stack up 1,000 of those. You don't have enough stone for 1,000. It shows you here how much stone is required for 1,000. But you're going to want to do this a lot, so just stack them all up. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to queue up probably a lot of steel plates, because that is going to be what you're going to be doing. So queue up 100 steel plates for now. That's probably excessive. Right, see, now we've run out of stone, and now it'll go, okay, I've got enough iron ingots to start making steel plates. It's going to start making steel plates. Go back to the inventory. See, it's producing steel plates. 9, 10, 11, and now it's run out of iron and can't produce anymore. That's how that works. You'll see it's used up all the iron ingots, and there are now gravel. There's nickel and silicon. There's also ice over here, which provides you with O2 and H2. Now, I am going to... the O2 and H2 generator is here, behind this light. And I'm going to take out the hydrogen bottle, because that powers my thrusters. So I, on my spacesuit, actually have thrusters. And if I hit X, you'll see I'm now actually floating off the ground. You can control that in any way, shape, or form you like. And the thrusters will work against gravity to maintain your position. Thrusters can be turned on by pressing X and turned off by pressing X again. That's simple. You can also... Now it has dampers, so if I hit forwards and then let go, I come to a stop. But by pressing Z, I can turn my dampers off. I don't know why I'm not... Oh yes, because I'm not providing a constant acceleration. So on a planet with your dampers off, you need to actually keep pressing space, because you don't have a constant level of acceleration to go upwards. What I was trying to demonstrate there probably would have worked better if I was in space. Then I could show you that you could just press forwards once with your dampers off, and you would accelerate at that speed forever without using any more energy or using any more hydrogen for your thrusters. Sorry, I had to sneeze there. Right, you can see in the bottom left that I've used 52% of my hydrogen already doing that short thruster maneuver. And if I go in here, I haven't used my hydrogen bottle. So let's turn the thrusters on. Let's use some more of my hydrogen. Just do some silly acrobatics for the fun of it. Now you can get hurt with the thrusters. It's very easy to go at crazy speeds. If I was to slam into the ground at this speed, I would die. Right, you see my hydrogen just went from 20% to 100%. Why is that? Because I used the hydrogen from my hydrogen bottle. Now, it's not all the hydrogen from your hydrogen bottle. There, I used 11% to go back to 100%. You can also refill your hydrogen bottle by placing it back in the O2H2 generator. It'll use a little bit of ice. It's making hydrogen from water, essentially. Right. All of that being said, let's grab these. And you'll see that I can now, with a single click, it will add all 11 plates that I had in my inventory, if you look in the bottom right, to the construction. But it hasn't increased the construction because I haven't held down the left mouse button with the welder selected to build it. So now we've gotten to 48% functional. And you'll see it's a bit more filled in. It looks a bit more like the block that it will eventually be. But we're going to need a lot more rock. We can keep digging to make a lot more iron ingots, to make a lot more steel plates to finish that one off. So I'm going to fill this up again, but I'm also going to begin next. I'm going to start deconstructing some of the extraneous components on my ship. Because there are a fair few of those things that you're never going to use again. Now that you're down on the planet, you're not going to use this respawn pod to try to leave the planet again. It's basically just recyclable materials now. Right, by adding stone to this inventory again, it again begins processing that into gravel, nickel, silicon, and iron. I don't know why iron ended up there, but anyway. And again, this is the order that things will be produced in. This is the production queue. So while it can produce gravel, produce ingots from this, it will do that. When it can no longer do that, it'll check to see if it can do this. And it will be able to because all this iron is sitting there. See, so now it knows it can do that and it'll start producing steel plates. So that should be enough steel plates. And we can finish our very first block. Oh, well, make our first block functional. See, so now it looks like it's going to look when finished. But it doesn't have all its hit points. So if something was to collide with it, it is only 84% of its hit points. So I need another 4. I got 3. Oh. Need 1 more. Right, I'm going to take that off the ship. So where did I start deconstructing before? Over here. So I'm going to line up this component, see how it's highlighted, and I'm going to deconstruct it. And that was only a tiny piece, but it was still worth 1, because every block on a small ship is just 1 steel plate. So now, that is a 100% block. It is at full hit points. It is as constructed as it's going to get. So the next thing I'm going to want to make is a basic refiner. So there is a progression tree. You can actually turn the progression tree off if you want and just have everything available at the beginning of the game. There are some expansion packs. Everything in the expansion packs, there is an equivalent outside of the expansion packs. The expansion packs are mostly just cosmetic, but those cosmetics are pretty cool. Spend money on the cosmetic expansion packs if you want to. There are also some missions attached to the cosmetic expansion packs that you otherwise don't have access to. Those missions are different game modes. Oh, yawn. Sorry. Different game modes selected at the beginning of the game when you first start playing. Right, so you can scroll through the progression tree to see what you have available, and basically how it works is build the first thing and everything on the second tier will unlock. So if I build the basic refinery, the ore detector and the drill will become available. The assembler and the industrial assembler, which is part of the heavy industry expansion. If it's an expansion, the little icon will have an extra thingy in the bottom right of it. If it's got a plus in the top right, what that means is you can put that block on your quick bar, like light armor block here, and you scroll and it will provide you with other options. So I can't select it now to show you, but if you look in sort of the window to the right of this main window, and then if you go right to the top of that, you'll see that there's 3 icons. So one of them is a full-size refinery, one of them is this industrial refinery, and one of them is the basic refinery. Basically, by putting this icon in your quick bar, you can scroll through all 3 of those options. Now, the basic refinery and the basic assembler, which will be the first 2 things you make, are already actually on your quick bar, because this game isn't stupid. So, it knows what you're going to be doing first. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to place this. Now, I can't place it because you need a steel plate to place the blueprint of the basic refinery. So this is the preview. It shows you where it's going to be. Now, with a basic block, rotation wasn't important, but now that I have, you know, a something where, you know, it looks different depending on its rotation, the rotation buttons. Default settings, it's insert, home, page up, page down, delete, and end. So if I hit insert, it rotates that way. Delete is that way. Home is that way. End is the opposite. Page up, page down. Right? You'll get used to it. In the top right, it gives you an indication of which way it's going to rotate according to what you press. You'll get used to how to read that, and you'll probably just come to be familiar with which button on your keyboard does which rotation. So you're going to want to get at least one. We should have a few. Right, 11 will do. Now, I want my base to sort of be lined that way. So, along this axis. So, because I want that, I want these big yellow doors. You see where it says Basic Refinery? And there's a kind of squarish door? I want that to actually face along that axis. Other than that, it doesn't matter, because those are the only two doors on this machine. But I definitely want that to face this way. So I'm going to place it there. Okay, good bot as well. He will tutorialize you a little bit. He'll tell you how to do certain things. He'll ask you to do things like put your helmet on, jump, walk, crouch, and so on and so forth. There's also, if you press F1, these open videos that will actually teach you all the little bits and pieces you need to know. But you should get most of the basics if you watch this video. It might seem cumbersome at first, but believe me, once you've played the game for a while, it all becomes old hat very fast. Right. Now I need to make this 100 steel plates, 20 construction components, 10 motors, 10 computers, and then a further 20 steel plates to actually finish the construction. Now this time you can see functional and hack. So what that is because this block has an inventory, if you are not part of my faction, if you in a PvP game are in a faction different to mine, you cannot access this thing's inventory nor its function. So you can't tell it to make things for you, and you can't get into its inventory to steal my stuff. But if you deconstruct this thing below the hack line and then reconstruct it above functional, it will return to functional and will be yours. You will then have control of this refinery, and anything that was in its inventory will still be in its inventory, but you will now have access to, and it will also work for you, and you can get it to construct for you. That's not going to matter in this single player offline game, but it is an interesting thing that the game has all these little nuanced bits and pieces. Right. Yeah, definitely going to need more. Oh, tell you what I forgot to do. Bear with me a moment. So for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm also streaming this live to Twitch, and on Twitch at the moment, it still says I'm playing League of Legends, so I need to quickly go in and just say, I'm not playing League of Legends, I am playing Space Engineers. Let's say making a long-winded YouTube tutorial. And it is long-winded, and if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. There are other ones out there. I recommend just pressing F1 and doing that instead. However, I'm going to long-wind my way through everything, and if you follow this, you will totally learn how to play Space Engineers. Space Engineers. Tell people I'm playing Space Engineers. There we are, sorry about that. Totally forgot about Twitch. Okay, right, steel plates. So, I can make more steel plates by drilling this out, and I'm going to drill more, get a full inventory of rock, place it in a survival kit, but then I'm also going to start deconstructing parts of my ship that I don't need. Because a lot of the things on my ship are made up of complex components, like motors and computers and display screens. And I can use those to begin construction of my basic refinery.
Inventory full.
And why do we want a basic refinery? Well, I'll show you when we've got one. Shouldn't take too long. Right, so I want to put that in there. Give it a little second, then I can get that last few things in there. And then I'm going to go back to my grinder. Now, the next biggest components that are worth taking off your ship are actually the thrusters, because you're not going to use them again. So deconstruct your atmospheric thrusters. Now you want to be careful. There are certain things on the ship that you do not want to deconstruct. One is the battery. This is the battery. It's got the 4 green lights on it. should be at 3 now that you've just started. The weather has changed and it's just started raining. Although there aren't enough clouds for that really, but... Is it getting cloudier? I think it'll get cloudier. At least it's not snowing. Could be worse. Anyway, don't deconstruct the battery. You can deconstruct the light on the side of the battery if you're really careful. If you do accidentally start deconstructing the battery, it will not stop working until it reaches the functional hack point. You do not want to take it below that bar. If you do, power cells are not added to your inventory like steel plates, construction components, computers, and other components are. When you destroy a power cell that is part of a built block in the game, all you get is scrap. You don't get a new power cell back. So whatever you do, do not destroy the battery below, I think it's 45%, the functional and hack line. If you do accidentally damage the battery, like I've done on purpose to show you, you can simply weld it back up again. Unless you haven't researched it because you haven't gotten that far on the progression tree. Oh dear. I really do hope that I remember to fix this battery. Anyway. Don't accidentally destroy the battery because you're trying to demonstrate something to YouTube and then realize you can't repair the battery. Just don't touch the battery. So the battery, the survival kit, which is quite a big machine that actually stretches really far into this survival pod, and the O2H2 generator. Those are really important. Don't destroy them. You need them really badly. That being said, with all the components on your inventory, and now I have, yeah, you can see, some steel plates, lots of construction components, motors, steel tubes, and metal grids, I can do a bit more construction on the basic refinery. The problem is now I have an inventory full of stuff. So you want to dump that into the survival kit, which will not be able to take all of it because it has a limited amount of space, and especially metal grids and large steel tubes, they're big. So maybe you want to avoid destroying the atmospheric thrusters right now. That's up to you. I do it anyway because it's just me and I'm dumb. And now I've done it, it's too late to undo it. But yeah, we will get to the point where we will get more space soon. Now I can go down here, we'll collect more rock. With my now much more limited inventory space, since it's full of large steel tubes and big heavy metal grills. But that doesn't mean we should stop.
Inventory full.
So I'll make more rock. Put it in there. Off it goes. But then I'll also go back to taking apart the ship. And especially just basic steel plates. So anything that's just like a block, light armor slope, you'll see, they're all made up of just single steel plates. So there are two sizes of blocks. And I didn't demonstrate this before. But, okay, I'm going to press 4. So that is the large or station size or large ship size steel block, right? It takes 25 to build one of those. And if I hit the scroll wheel, I scroll through all the different shapes. But if I hit 4 a second time, I get the small or small ship size block. And I can hit the scroll wheel again to scroll through all the different shapes that can be too. So yeah, that will come in handy. So this is a small sized ship. It's made of small blocks. That is large. It is station sized or large ship sized, made of large blocks. That is an important distinction to notice as well. Won't come into play for some time yet. But yes, for now I need to keep disassembling this and getting as many steel plates as I can, because that's what I really need right now is steel plates, so I can get this refinery going. A wild pepper appeared. My dog has just turned up out of nowhere and I didn't know. I don't know whether she wants anything. She's very old, poor thing, and she's all arthritic at the moment. She's on all kinds of medication and stuff. Yeah, she's not going to be with us much longer, I'm afraid. It's sad. But she's been a very good dog for an extremely long time, so she's had a good life. And she's done really well, like, for her age. She's like 15, and she's a Staffordshire Terrier, so that's really good for a Staffordshire Terrier in the first place. And as illnesses go, like most dogs, they develop, you know, hip problems and all of that sort of stuff earlier, and, you know, eyesight problems and stuff. In her case, she, at about 13, went deaf. And that was it. No eyesight problems, no teeth problems, no digestive problems, no hip problems. But now in the last few months, she's really started to fade. Her eyesight's going. She was already deaf, like I said, and her hips are starting to go. She's pretty arthritic, so she's on medication and stuff for that at the moment. But yeah, she's not in the best of shapes anymore. Poor little dog. So I'm not sure exactly what she wants, and I hope it's not important. But she is literally just standing here doing absolutely nothing. Quite possibly she just wants attention. I normally have 2 other people in the house, and they aren't here. She might be missing them because they've gone away for the weekend. Well, for the week. It's not actually a weekend, but they've gone away for this period of a few days. They will in fact be back for the weekend. Yeah, they normally take care of her more than I do, because I'm normally, you know, just sitting in my room playing computer games. I don't really play with the dog. It's not actually my dog, she's just the house dog, and I happen to live here. But yeah, they're not here, and she might be missing them a little bit. And now she's literally just standing with her head pressed up gently against a pile of laundry that I have, and doing nothing. And I don't know why. She's not making any noises or anything. I don't know, she might, I don't know whether dogs can become senile, but she might even become senile. What's the matter? You okay? Sorry, just patting her a bit there. Trying to give her some reassurance. Right, so that was enough steel plates to almost get this built. But I need the computers. So, the survival kit can make computers. And it could do that now, because there's a bunch of silicon just sitting here and nothing's using it. So I'm going to control...
low.
Okay, energy low. So now I've got no energy. So now is a great time to use the survival kit. Over here, hold the F button down and you'll see that energy slowly recharges. Now it is using the energy from the battery to do this. Luckily I didn't fully deconstruct the battery, so yeah, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this, and then I would just die, because I wouldn't have anywhere to recharge energy. Right, let's grab that and that. Why did I only get 6? Did I run out of silicon? What's going on here? I've got enough silicon. Why did it stop? Or do I need iron and silicon to make? I might need a bit of iron and a bit of silicon to make computer components. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the production on steel plates for a moment. Because when it gets enough iron, it's going to immediately start building steel plates, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to finish making the computers. So it'll knock up a bunch of ingots now, as much as it can, and then it should finish off by producing me a bunch of computer components, I would think. And once I've got all 4 of these computers, my refinery will be functional, and I can, if I want to, move on to the next thing. But I won't. I will also then get enough steel plates to finish it off. Some of those plates will come from the survival kit, and some of those plates will come from deconstructing the ship. Right, there we are. It is now functional, and I need 6 more plates. I might even get enough plates just out of this. I did. Perfect. Perfect is actually less cool, but that's alright. Excess would have been nice. Right, a basic refinery. Now, unlike this, if I were to put rock into that, all I would get is gravel, because it's not designed to process stone into assorted ingots. It's designed to process everything into its base type. So all it produces out of stone is gravel. It doesn't produce iron, it doesn't produce silicon, anything else. Even though, of course, stone is made of silicon. Yeah, it just doesn't, because it's a basic refinery. It also won't work because it currently has no power. So if I was to press F on this inventory, look, it has a similar inventory, except it actually shows you that it takes raw resource here and produces ingots there. That's what these icons in the 2 blocks are. Now, I didn't show you the control panel of a ship or a thing. Let's do it on the ship first. So by pressing F, I go into the inventory, and that's the ship's inventory. Now I can hit control panel, and these are all the things that are actually on the ship that are currently, well, there are actually others. Some of them are hidden, so if I press this, it will show me, oh, pardon me, all the hidden blocks. We don't really need that, so I'll go back to this view because it's more appropriate. Click on the battery. It shows you type battery, max output. Can output 4 megawatts at a time if it wants to. Max required input, so the maximum it can take as an input is 4 megawatts. Currently has 1 megawatt hour stored, so that is a discharge rate of 1 megawatt. It can discharge 1 megawatt for an hour before it'll go flat. Current input 0, current output is 18.63 because it is keeping some things running. Some of those are just lights. I'm going to turn some of those off. Off. I don't need lights. What am I doing using lights for? Interior light off. Oops, control panel. Battery. That's now gone down some. Anyway, will be fully depleted in 2 days. It gives you that indication as well. The beacon. So the beacon is not on, I think, at the moment. Is it on? Control panel. Beacon off. Turn it on. It says beacon right there in the middle, right? That I'll be able to see for 15 kilometers, I believe. Or no, you can actually set it on the beacon. Let's go back to the beacon. Control panel, beacon. Broadcast radius, 1,500. So 1.5 Ks. I can change that, and it'll increase the amount of power required up to 50 Ks, all the way down to 1 meter, which doesn't require anything. But I don't need it, so I can turn it off. Because as soon as a respawn ship lands, it makes this respawn pod point. And that respawn pod point is actually a GPS coordinate. So that is the location of your respawn pod. That is your respawn pod. That is the serial number of this particular respawn pod. Don't worry about these unknown signals. We'll get to those in a little bit. I'm not going to do them just yet, but we will get to them. But yeah, you can at any point create your own GPS coordinates. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here, press I for inventory, go to GPS. I'm going to say new from current position. It's called His Quivzness because that's my Steam username, His Quivzness at the moment. It's His Quivzness because when I didn't have a mic and stuff, and I used to say Quivz, people thought I was female. I don't know why. I don't know why Quivz implies female. There is another Quivz out there, and he's a dude as well. I wonder if he gets that. So eventually I added the masculinity to my name by calling myself His Quivzness. That was mostly during matches of Team Fortress. I get a lot of people that asked if I was an e-girl. Anyway, that's pretty much extraneous to this tutorial as well. I'm going to call it home, current position. It doesn't need anything. I'm going to give it a color. Let's make it sort of a bright green. We'll change the saturation so it's nice and high, so it's a weird sort of green so I can see it. And then if you look, there's a little marker that stays there on the ground forever. It doesn't matter how far away I go, that will be there and will be visible. So I can always find my way home. So that's useful. I highly recommend doing that. Like I said, the respawn pod makes one when it lands. But now that I have one, I'm actually going to delete the respawn pod one because it's unnecessary. Now, the other one is the antenna. The respawn pod has an antenna on it, and the antenna is currently functional, which is why you can see a mark that says antenna. Now, an antenna is different to a beacon. So an antenna can both receive and broadcast. A beacon only broadcasts. And antenna within range of a beacon can further broadcast. So if you can relay a broadcast, for example. So if you have a beacon that's transmitting up to 50 Ks, and at 49 Ks you have an antenna, and you go 52 Ks out of range of that beacon, you will still see the beacon on your HUD because the antenna is relaying the signal to you, because it is within the beacon's range and it is an antenna. So it can both receive and broadcast. So yeah, that's why there are antennas. There are also laser antennas. They do the same thing over massive distances, but they need line of sight to do so. Even more cool stuff that this game simulates. It does simulate a lot of things. Having said that, we don't need the antenna to be on, and it's wasting 400 watts. Okay, 400 watts is tiny, but it was wasting it. It's only broadcasting for 100 meters. That's why. And you can enable the broadcasting and disable it. So you can actually turn that off, and it will not resend signals that it receives to extend the range on things. It'll just broadcast its own location like a beacon, and that's it, which costs less power. Right. I need more. I need more rock. We'll get some more rock. We need to build more steel plates because I need to make some more basically base to put things on. Yeah. Right. Pick up all the rock. Now again, the settings that I made at the beginning of the game when I started the world would affect things like this. So these rocks will just lie here. But if I go somewhere else and mine more, and I make more rocks and I don't pick them up, and I get over the limit of, I think, 5,000. I can't remember what the limit was, what the default limit is. But if I get over the default limit of things that the game keeps track of, the oldest one of these will start disappearing. But until I go to that limit, these things will just sit here. The simulation will keep track of them, and they will sit. It'll keep track of things like, even though they're stationary, it is keeping track of its current movement, its momentum, its position in space, the amount of gravity affecting it, etc., etc. The game is doing an immense amount of calculations per second. It's crazy when you really sit down and think about it. If you know about programming, this is a very impressive game. It's very well, what's the word? Optimized. It's very well optimized. And it runs very smoothly, especially considering how many things it's doing. If you can actually think in your head like, wow, it's doing a lot of stuff, and all that stuff is happening without, any major frame drop. I don't know what my frame rate actually is. I could do maybe from Microsoft Vendor and have a look or something, but I'm not sure. I'm sure it's fine. It seems like it's at least 30, which is, I'm playing a single player game here. I don't need more than 30. 4. Okay. Small block. I push it up against a large block, and it will automatically change because it knows I want to build station size blocks. Voila. So we put this here, construct it. I'm going to actually want this to be fully constructed because I do. Well, not because it has to be. Actually, okay, let's do that. So I'm going to take this apart. You'll get every single steel plate back. There's no wastage. I believe you can actually change that in the game settings, and there will be wastage. So when you deconstruct something, you get less than the entire amount of things back. Free placement is activated, is it? I don't know what that means, to be honest. without any aligning. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So you don't want to press B because you don't want to start changing that. It's annoying. You just want it at its default settings, so don't press B. Right. I can just leave that there, and then I can construct the next thing on top of it. Now, admittedly, the next thing was going to be attached to the refinery anyway, so this isn't really a good example, but... oh, yeah. Okay, well, let's do this. See, that still counts as grid for this, despite the fact that it is at 0%. It exists and provides stability for this, which is why this can stand up off the ground without collapsing. Oh yeah, we don't actually want to do that, so just deconstruct these for now. And actually, I wouldn't mind having some of these steel plates back so I can place the basic assembler. Now, I need to rotate it that way. So this has just one thing on it. And I want that thing to actually be... I want it to be right way up just because I'm that way inclined. I want that to be pressed up against the door of the basic refinery because that way they will share an inventory. Now I'm not talking about they only have one inventory between them. I mean, things can pass between one and the other without me having to manually do it. So if the refinery makes an iron ingot and the assembler needs an iron ingot, it'll just grab that iron ingot from the refinery automatically. I don't have to go in and manually move the ingots from the refinery into the assembler. So that's where I'm going to want this basic assembler, but I am also going to finish the steel plate first. Now the other thing I can do is I can grab some more of these and those, and then dump... Oh, they can't go in there. So this is actually a size inventory thing, so despite how big this hole looks, it can't physically fit large tubes and things in them. Because it can't actually make those, it's designed to not fit those. So its inventory cannot accept metal grids and large steel tubes. Because if you go to production, it can't make metal grids and large steel tubes. Right, what else does this require? 4 displays, a lot of steel plates, a lot of computers, 80 in fact. And that's it, because we had enough motors and construction components. Right. 80 computers, wow, that's a lot. Alright, so we need 80 computers, a heck of a lot of steel plates, and 4 displays. That's a weird little addition. Right, let's grab some more rock.
Inventory full.
Load the rock into the survival kit for the purposes of making ingots, and it'll keep churning out plates at the moment and nothing else. Now the other thing about the survival kit is it's not even capable of refining proper ores. Now there should be a proper ore over here. So one of the places you can find proper ores on a planet is when you just find a boulder like this. That boulder will be made of that ore, and I believe underneath it will also be more of the ore, but I'm not actually sure. Maybe not. We'll see. And this happens to be ideal because it is iron ore. So let's... it's going to roll away if I try and do anything. Let's try and dig into somewhere where it won't roll away. I'm not going to be able to do that. There. All stone at first, which is annoying, but you know, you get that. Stone, there it is. Iron ore. So that is the first iron ore that I have discovered, and I will place that in the basic refinery. Now, the basic refinery is not powered, so it'll do absolutely nothing with it at the moment because I don't have any way of powering this base just yet. We will soon, but not yet. But I did want to demonstrate that yes, you can get those and they go here in the basic refinery. And you can put the stone in there as well, because it'll turn that into gravel, like I said. But the stone is of more use at the moment than the survival kit, since the survival kit will make basic ingots out of the stone, so that's preferable at this point in the game. Why did it make so many computer components and so few plates? I don't know. That was kind of weird. I wasn't expecting it to do that. Alright, 10 plates, and we've got 56 of 80 computers. Right, more rock. I'm going to have to do this a little bit. So this first part of the game might seem slow, but I am obviously explaining minutiae of the game as I go. So if you were just playing, you could do this a little bit faster. You probably would have used a lot more on the escape pod by deconstructing it than I have so far.
Inventory full.
Somewhat avoided doing that. I do somewhat avoid doing it too much until I'm kind of prepped to get rid of it entirely once I don't need it at all, as pretty much when I actually deconstruct it. I mostly deconstruct only bits of it until I really can. Now the other ones you can immediately deconstruct is there's a beacon in there, there's an ore detector. So the ore detector actually, when powered, will detect ore within a certain radius. You start with one so that when the survival ship lands, if you do land near some ore, you will immediately see it. But it's not hugely important. The parachute, if I can just get close enough to it. Yeah, that's got some stuff. You can definitely deconstruct that. And once you've done that, you'll be able to see other things like this small conveyor. Deconstruct that. Small conveyor down there. There's some other bits and pieces. There's definitely a lot of plates up here. I could deconstruct the antenna now, but that will leave me with radio components, which are extremely heavy, and I don't have anywhere to put them at the moment. So I don't want to do that just now because they'll be stuck in my inventory, like the grills and the large tubes. They're currently just taking up space in my inventory. But yeah, the top of the ship is another thing that's pretty good to deconstruct because there's nothing up here that's really important. I might know enough to fix the battery now. I still don't know enough to fix the battery. I think I need to make a solar panel before I might not. I think you have to make a solar panel before you can make a wind turbine. But yeah, solar panels and wind turbines, that's how we're going to power this base to begin with. Now if you were in space, you would probably skip that step and go straight to a generator and power it with uranium, but planets and moons do not contain uranium. Only alien planets and the more advanced planets. And asteroids contain uranium. And generators can only be powered with uranium. Although I do think there might be a hydrogen one as well. If I remember correctly, I think there is a hydrogen one. But yeah, I don't have the blueprints for that yet because it's too early in the game. Alright. I've managed to get through 3 of the displays. Still need another 11 steel plates to make this functional. Oh, and 1 display, because if it doesn't get the display, it's still not going to get past the functional point.
Inventory full.
Load that into the survival kit. Now, I've ended up with other things like interior plates. They will fit though. More construction components, like small steel tubes. They don't fit. But motors do, and I've got now a spare computer, and that does as well. So. I should get close to functional. This processed into ingots and those ingots have been processed.
Inventory full.
So yeah, if you already know what you're doing and you just wanted to get, but you've never maybe started on a planet before and you wanted to know how to go, this is not the best tutorial for you. Of course, at an hour in, you probably aren't even going to hear that message, which is a bit of a shame. But, you know, it's the cookie crumbles. I'm going to put it after the display plate, so it's the display plate first, because I need that more than anything else. Kind of. Now, this basic assembler can assemble everything, but it's basic. Well, almost everything, I think. But it will be able to assemble enough things including metal grids and large steel
Energy
tubes,
low.
which is why I'll be able to actually take those out of my inventory when I find it. Now, the lovely lady has warned me that my energy is low again, so I'll recharge at the survival kit. Or again, like I said, you can come over here and sit in the seat if the seat is still there. And you'll see that your energy also still slowly recharges. I actually look different. Do it. Everything rotates automatically. Shift and zoom in. Control. Anyway, yeah, I have a skin on my engineer suit, which is actually the medieval skin that I love for engineers. Right, now this will get to functional and above, so it'll actually look like it should when it's finished, and will be ready to rock once I provide the space for power. Okay. One more. Manage one more.
Inventory full.
Oh yes, I forgot to... Now, because it has no power, I cannot actually reach the basic assembler inventory from the basic refiner. So I still can't offload this stuff yet. Because that's the thing. It needs power to transfer from one machine to another. And because it's not powered, I can't access the basic assembler directly because its only entry point, its only door, is pressed right up against the refinery. Yeah, I have no access to it until the base is powered. But we'll get there. It won't be long before I'll do that because we will need that.
Inventory full.
Finish making the basic assembly by dividing rock and these until I have enough. Again, that's just because you don't have to. I could have stopped and not worry about the steel plates, the last few steel plates that make it a 100% point refinery. You could absolutely just stop and go on. Especially in single player with all the major damage things like dragons and spiders and those two. You could absolutely just stop the function.
Inventory full.
But I'm not going to because that goes against my delicate sensibilities. 10's good because 10 will need some space. Right. There we go, 100%. Now, I need to pick a side of this that I'm going to care about on the side of it that I'm literally going to fill with, well, not fill, I'm going to build my first solar panel. I'm going to do it this way, so it's going to stick out on that side. I'm going to press G to bring up all my blocks. I'm actually going to go over the progression screen just so I can show you. So there's batteries. I now know how to make batteries. Apparently I had to make a basic assembler. Now that I've made a basic assembler, I know battery technology, so I can come over here and repair the battery, which I'm going to do before I accidentally screw up and break the battery. So let's do that. Cool. Now the battery's back to 100% increase. Perfect. Okay, on my quick bar, there is already the solar panel and the wind turbine. But I will try to find it in the progression first, just to demonstrate. Is it? There it is. Alright, so you do get both. And they have no prerequisites, so you do actually know how to make a solar panel and how to make a wind turbine, just off the top of that. The solar panel comes in a ship size, that is a small ship size, and comes in a large. So that is the small one, and that is the big one. Well, that's the big one anyway. Comes in a big system station size as well. There are several rotations you can mess around with. It still attaches in most of these rotations. There are just sort of better ones. And this is how I would like it to be attached, so I'm going to attach it like that. Sticks right out here, almost into the hill, and let's see if I can perfectly whip it into it. That's actually going to be kind of convenient. So these are all the construction components that you need. You need steel plates, construction components, girders, computers, solar cells, which we haven't seen yet, more construction components, and bulletproof glass. Now the bulletproof glass you cannot construct, but the bulletproof glass is beyond the functional point for the solar panel, so we're not going to worry about that because we will get those later. Also, by the time you're making your first solar panel, it is almost certainly going to be night. So you could actually skip this step and go straight to a wind turbine, if you'd like. I don't, and hence I'm doing this, but you could actually skip it and go straight to a wind turbine. It might almost be recommended that you do it that way rather than this way. But yeah, I haven't. Now, I just happen to know, off the top of my head, that it requires 24 girders specifically, which is I've played this enough. It's like 32 solar panel, or solar cells, I believe. Solar cells are mostly made of silicon, so we've got survival kit. There are nuts.
Inventory full.
Yeah, most standard first-person shooter stuff applies. Crouch is not control, it is C. But shift is run.
Inventory full.
So you can run. Right. There we go. Picking the panels, a few those, put those in. I definitely don't need any more steel plates. Now, I'm going to want to build wind turbines. Now, the thing about wind turbines is they work best when they're up high. It's wind turbines. And when they're separated from other components. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to start using plates to just build a thing where I can keep wind turbines. But you know what? Absolutely more important than the girders. So let's stop that. I'm just being silly. And get some girders in place. And get closer to finishing this. And I need 3 more computers and the 32 solar cells that I mentioned. So 1, 2, 3. Control 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. Done. Right, so now I've got all the girders, I've got the 3 of those, and I'm starting to get solar cells. So 30 more solar cells and it will be a functional panel. And yes, that's then when the sun comes up, it will provide power, which will finally might start running. Now, probably won't, because again, this game is a simulation, and the solar panels actually provide power.
Inventory full.
How much of the sun they are receiving, and I believe I've actually aligned that on the west side, which means I probably won't receive much until like almost noon. Kind of annoying, but oh well. I'm not going to actually be relying on the power, I'm actually going to be relying on the wind. So why didn't I make the wind first, you might ask? Apparently it wasn't 24, it must have been 12. I must have been thinking about what it takes to make 2 solar panels. Why did I make... Oh, it was 12. The solar panel first. Well, because I always do. Once again, it's a me thing, not a you should do this thing. So I would say make a wind turbine first. Do as I say, not as I do. However, I am making the solar panel and I'm almost done. So let's finish the solar panel before we go on. Oh, lightning. are. Now we have a solar panel that is actually functional. You'll see the lights are currently yellow because it's not producing. And if I go into the control panel, I can find solar panel. Max output is currently 0 watts, and its current output is 0 watts. Now that max output will actually change according to where the sun is, and its current output will actually change according to the draw. So its max output might be however many megawatts, or I think it's kilowatts. I think it's like 336 kilowatts is the max output in full sun. But your base might only be drawing like 20 kilowatts, so it'll only output 20 kilowatts. That's just how that works. All right. Right, I'll tell you what, let's do one of these unknown signals. Because that one's going to be about 2 k's away when I'm ready. So, going to get a full recharge. I'm going to go over to the hydrogen generator, make sure I've got a full bottle. I do have a full bottle already, so we don't have to worry about that. Right. So, the best way to get to them is actually to fly to them. So I'm going to hit X. I'm going to use spacebar to get a bit of altitude. And then I'm just going to accelerate towards that unknown signal. Now what it actually is small satellites dropped in from space and they fall on parachutes. It's still falling on its parachute because it hasn't landed yet. And they are actually special capsules. Now some of them try to escape from you. Some of them have thrusters and like controls to actually try and escape from you. So I want to get... Okay, this one isn't one of those, so we don't have to worry about that. You'll probably see one later. This one will roll down the hill though unless I sort of stop it. Somewhere on it will be a button. If you can find the button, highlight it, press F, it'll say special content, try your luck to get a new special item. Wait a second. And look, I got a new item, a leopard suit. Visit a medical room to change your appearance. So we don't have a medical room yet, but we will later. And then you can actually deconstruct this thing. Now it'll also have somewhere on it a cargo container, and that cargo container will contain some stuff for you. Not much normally, but it'll contain some stuff. And then yeah, and then we can just deconstruct this whole thing. It will have one cargo container, one button, one battery, and one parachute hatch at a minimum. Sometimes they have a little bit more, and of course a bunch of panels, a bunch of blocks that it's actually make up the frame. But yeah, so you can get the components from all those things. Now remember what I said about batteries? This is the battery here. This is a small ship battery. It's got 2 power cells, but I won't get those power cells. I'll get everything else and scrap metal. Because that's what happens when you deconstruct a battery. The parachute hatch will not contain a parachute because it uses its parachutes. They always only the same as the parachute hatch that you have on your respawn ship. Dropship. Yeah, you won't get that. You won't get a parachute because it uses the parachute when it drops in. Okay, cool. We'll finish this deconstruction. Home is over there because I placed the GPS coordinate. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to find it because I turned the one on the ship off and deleted the one that it creates. But yes, because I created a GPS coordinate, I can always find home. I think there is actually a limit though. I think you can get far enough away that it stops showing you. Anyway. Don't come into land too fast, you'll hurt yourself. You can fix hurts at the survival kit. That is a possibility. Now, what is this made? Nothing else. Why hasn't it made anything else? Because it's not trying to make anything else. Let's go back to making lots of those. Right. Got a few things in my inventory, enough steel plates to finish this. Now, I want to make a sort of pillar that goes well above the height of these, where I will... I'm going to have to use the jetpack to actually fly around to do this. So I want to sort of go that height. So the base and then 4 up. And then I'm probably going to want a couple more to the side, but for now we won't bother with that. We'll just make it here. Now, this time I am going to go proper... okay, that is what the wind turbine will look like when it's finished. It is already on my quick bar. It was number 7. If I select number 8 and use the scroll wheel, it'll actually cycle through. So, yeah. I'm going to place that up here for now, and I'm going to construct this. I'm going to go with proper efficiency and actually construct this before I finish these pieces, because they will still provide enough stability for that to be up there and to function, to like actually work immediately. So I'm going to grab the motors, I'm going to grab any construction components I have. I don't think I need girders, I think I need other things there. Oh, it might take girders actually. Oh, it does take girders. Oh, it's the wind turbine that uses 24 girders. Now it's interior plates that I need, not steel plates. So I can actually stop this thing making steel plates. I kind of wasted steel plates. So one of the other things you can do if you really, really want to... Oh, you can't just shift click to get it to this inventory either. That's annoying. You have to drag and drop. It's a bit of a pain, to be honest. Oh yeah, those don't go in there. Yes, that's everything. You can actually deconstruct as well. So if you go to production, there's assembling and disassembling. The survival kit cannot disassemble, but the basic assembler can. It will disassemble it and you will get, pardon me, ingots back according to what the thing was made of. So by hovering over it, it will show you here. So a computer is made up of 0.17 of an iron ingot and 0.07 of a silicon wafer. The larger number to the right is how much I currently possess. I think you get less than the entire amount back when you disassemble, but yes, if you're absolutely desperate, you can drop components into a basic assembler and disassemble them for some ingots. Yeah, that's something you can do. Alright, let's get rid of these. Don't think I need 100, but I need like 50. Let's go with 40 and start there and see how we go. Alright, I need more rock.
Inventory full.
That's pretty good. Probably enough to almost... to almost make this thing. Right. Yep, I need another 12 girders and it will be functional, so I could make the rest of these interior plates, but I could also make the rest of the girders, but no, I'll just go like that. 1, 2. Right, I'm going to run out of iron ingots before I actually finish that, so... complex thing regarding power to explain. But I'm going to start my explanation. I showed you on the solar panel, once I'd constructed it, that there is a maximum output and a current draw. If the current available output of some power producing item is not enough to actually power anything, so if this thing needs, let's say it needs 1,000 kilowatts, a megawatt, and this thing can only produce 300 kilowatts, that thing cannot power this, and this will not draw power from that, because it cannot power it, so it just won't do it in the first place. A base, regardless of its size, draws 1 watt at all times, just because. I think it's just probably some sort of programming thing where it was better to have it draw 1 watt than draw 0 watts. I don't know. But you will see that it does that for, at least it does it for wind turbines. I don't know, it doesn't do it for solar panels, apparently. So wind turbine incomplete. Yeah, so wind clearance none. Wind clearance is fine, but it says that because currently it's not producing anything and it's not complete either. So the wind clearance actually goes up according to how much wind there is. So it's a bit misleading. Also doesn't appear to be very windy down here, so this could be kind of crap. I am at a higher altitude because this is a plateau, a higher plateau, so it might actually work pretty well. But yeah, it's not producing the 1 watt. Sorry. Not producing the 1 watt. Perhaps because it cannot produce anything at the moment, because it's producing 0. It's not producing the 1 watt draw that a station always does. But I think the wind one will when it starts to produce. It will not have enough power to actually power any of the things on the station. And there we go. And it spins up, and it's spinning quite fast. Maybe there's a lot more wind here than I thought. It's still not spinning that fast. Let's have a look, shall we? Yeah, 1 watt. So its max output is 295.6 kilowatts. The refinery needs more than that. The assembler needs more than that. So it requires 330. And it's getting 1 watt because this cannot provide enough anyway. This only requires 280. No, it requires 1 kilowatt. So it only requires 1 kilowatt. The maximum is 280. At 280 it'll work at its best speed. But yes, you can, for example, turn off the assembler, and then that'll leave more power for the refinery and vice versa. But for now we'll leave them both on. We'll leave the assembler off for now. And we'll try to get the refinery going. So, we're going to need a second wind turbine to power this. I do also, however, it is bugging me that these things are not filled in, so I'm now going to spend longer to make sure that I actually have some proper, functional, fully constructed steel blocks, just because I am that way inclined. You do not need to do that yourself. Right. But now that I have enough power, I do have enough power to actually use the abilities of the machines to pass things to each other, so I can... Oh no, I don't have enough power to do that. Oh, apparently because there isn't enough power to turn them on, they still don't pass things to each other. I actually wasn't aware of that. I thought that there's enough power for them to still pass things to each other. That's okay. We will... remedy that shortly. So I'm going to get rid of a few more strange bits of the dot pod. For the purposes of constructing the extra large blocks that I'm going to need so that I have the scaffolding area that I need to place it. Oh yes, and of course, the physics in the game is good as well. So you just saw that block like literally fell off this thing because it wasn't attached anymore. So yeah, so that happens. Physics simulation in the game is pretty functional and quite good. Not as in depth as some games, but enough for this game, like momentum and stuff. I mean, it's Space Engineers, so it's really important to get things like the physics of space correct. So if something has momentum and Newton's laws. If something has a force acting upon it, it will accelerate in the direction of the force applied. If something has no force applied to it, it will continue in the direction of its momentum unless another force is applied to it. Those things. Anyway, I think there's 3 of them. Newton's 3 laws. I should look that up. I should know that. I've definitely done them before. It's just been a long, long time, as Gladys would say. GLaDOS would say. It's been a long time. That'd make a really good playthrough. I should totally do a Portal 2 playthrough. Although, I'm sure there are billions on the internet already, but it's a damn good game. If you've never played Portal, or Portal 2, you are missing out. They are
Inventory
absolutely
full.
exceptional games, both of them. And the first one was a student project. I believe the original Team Fortress was also just a student project. Basically, they had interns who came in from a university, I think Caltech or something, and work at Valve. And to give them something to do, they were basically like given the Half-Life engine and told, do what you can with that. Make us something in this engine. And they came up with Team Fortress and Portal. And that's the original Portal and the original Team Fortress. And then, of course, Team Fortress 2 went in a rather different direction than the original Team Fortress. But they are still fun, functional games. Portal is excellent. The original Portal is fantastic. Portal 2 is much better than the story. But yeah, I don't think Valve had any idea that these essentially student busy work games, go and do something so you stop bugging me games, were going to turn out to be so popular and so important to their company. Right, because I couldn't stand looking at wireframes. I just can't do it. You absolutely could do it, and it would be more economical to do it, but I just can't bring myself to do it, so I didn't do it. I'm going to need at least, yeah, let's call it 6, 7. Right, so clearance issues. These things need a bit of space. That is as close together as they can be. Need more interior plates, motors, construction components, girders, and computers. Do I have any computers? I've got computers. I've got some construction components. I've got lots of motors. Don't have any girders. Let's stop that. I'll make 24 girders. 23 because that's how many I've already got. I probably don't have any construction components here either now, do I? No, I don't. So I need more construction components. A lot more interior plates. I could get some construction components off the ship, more than likely. There is something I can disassemble. I don't want to disassemble the seat yet. I can disassemble the seat. There's nothing in the seat now. K. Can I get to the inventory like that? No, I can't. F. K. Inventory. Take the gun. A lot of construction components and a lot of interior plates on it, so it's worth taking apart. This is no longer attached to anything, so there's not a lot of parts on it, but you know, it's something. So. Yep, that was all construction plates that I needed. Now I just need basically girders and some, like 14 interior plates, I think it was. Let's actually minimize that so that's all that we actually do, because that'll be best. Right, more.
Inventory full.
I should have actually dumped off some of the stuff so I can carry more rock. Oh well. Yeah, the digging takes a little bit to get the hang of as well, but you'll get used to it pretty quick. You need to actually press the drill into stuff, so you need to get close and then do it. It's not just going to happen on its own. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. I can't remember what shampoo that was. Right. 4 more girders and that will work. 4, a couple more plates, and we'll be basically done. Right. Now, you actually heard the refinery power up then. That's the refinery actually powering up for the first time. So now is being provided with enough power to work. And it turned a little bit of iron and a little bit of scrap metal into iron ingots. Now if I do this, show the connected inventories, should now be able to reach the basic assembler. Why not? Oh. Okay. So it's probably, the power thing was probably wrong. It probably just can't reach the basic assembler because you're not allowed to pass it through the refinery, which is annoying because then how am I going to get things out of the basic assembler? I'm now not sure. Let's go to production and just do this, shall we? Control panel. Turn the basic refinery off, and there should now be enough power for the basic thing. Need 7. There's a 12.5. What is going on? Did I construct the basic assembler facing the wrong way? No. Looks like it's in the correct orientation. Take it apart and find out. Can I fit all this in my inventory? So, basic assembler. Oh. Yep, seems like I had the rotation wrong after all. So that's what I was doing wrong. Now it's facing the right way. So that's why I couldn't reach the inventory. So I think you can actually use the inventory even when it's unpowered. I just couldn't because, like an idiot, I constructed it facing the wrong way. Right. So now if I go into the basic refinery, I should be able to put these things out of my inventory and store them in the... okay, I can't store the medkits because it doesn't know how to build medkits, but it does apparently know how to make magazines and an S10 S10 gun. Right. Now if I hit production, it will draw the iron into that. Right. So now it is no longer worth, well, I mean, it's kind of, there's still reasons why you would use this, but mostly I can take every single thing out of there. Small cargo container, load it up with stuff as well, right, and instead put the iron ingots in here and the silicon ingots, the nickel, put things like the gravel in it and put the stone in the basic refinery. Get rid of all the gravel, put all the... Now they won't shift click into the inventory, but you can place them through one inventory into the farmost inventory, which is the basic assemblies inventory. And now I've got more space. That is my dog returning again. Poor thing. Yeah, she can hardly walk. Oh. She literally just fell over. I'm really worried about her. I'm really hoping that things don't get so bad while my parents, the other people in my house, are away, that I have to take her to the vet to be, well, put down, because it's getting to that point where she can barely stand and she's going to be... It's going to get so bad that it'd be cruel to not put it in.
Inventory full.
I'm hoping that takes longer than that is later rather than sooner. Alright, so almost not worth it. It's still worth putting that in there. Oh, now what are you doing? You can't walk around underneath my chair. You can barely walk. Stop trying to walk where you... Stop it. Behave. I'm talking to the nice people of YouTube and Twitch. Alright, where's that big rock? There it is. So I will mine some more of this. See there, good bot. Ingots. Put iron ingot into assembler inventory. Use a survival kit or assembler to produce and obtain steel plates. I'm not going to do that. Oh, there you go. See, now that I've got my drill out, the drill actually contains a very small localized ore detector, and it will actually show you the iron thing. Oh, hush. I can't pay attention to it now. I think she's finally realized that my parents aren't coming back. And now she's losing. She does that a lot. I might have to go and check briefly on her water and her water, because that's all that she's got. That might be why she's whinging. She might have drank all her water and needs some more water, because she also currently drinks a lot because her medication dehydrates her quite severely. So I'm just going to dump this into the appropriate inventories. In this case, I'm going to put it in the iron ingots in the refinery and the stone in the thing. So I'll take that stone. Did I turn the refinery off? I did. On. Oh, and now you're tangled in cables. See, because you can't walk, you're going to rip out my headphones. I don't want you to rip out my headphones. Alright, I'm going to have to rip out my headphones. Hold on a moment. Take my headphones out and reroute the cable around the dog. Oh no, and I think this game hates trying to switch back to headphones. Oh no, there we go. It successfully switched back, that's fine then. Cool. Take all the ingots and leave the stone in there. Dump all the ingots in the refinery. Apparently can't hold any more. Oops. No, I can. I don't know why it wasn't taking any more. Alright, fine. Fine, be that way. Go in here, and I'm going to need a lot of those, so let's just make a bunch of those while we're waiting. Grab them. Finish constructing these because it annoys me that they are one. I mean, if something was to happen, then I'd lose that wind turbine because it would just fall out of the sky and deconstruct itself. So we don't want that. I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to improve the structural integrity of these steel plates by finishing their head plates off. Right. Okay, and that is a very brief, basic start in Space Engineers. I now have... I could go sort that out as well. I now have enough power to run a basic assembler and a basic refinery. I have, a base point. I've set up a GPS coordinate so I can't get lost. What I do not have yet is any way to recharge my suit energy besides the survival kit. So that will be the next thing that I will be looking towards doing. It actually won't. The next thing I will actually be looking towards doing, because I'm, again, that way inclined. So what you could actually do is from here, you could, because this is an Earth-like planet and you don't actually need oxygen, you could literally just construct one more block, let's say here, go in here and find, let's go to the progression screen and see if I can find it in the progression screen quicker. Might be able to. Oh no, you can't until you've done that. Okay, I need to build a landing gear. So let's build a landing gear. It's already on my quick bar. So 9. That is a large ship landing gear. If I press it again, you get a little one. Let's build a little one. Motor and construction components. I've got more of those in here. So I'm only doing this so I unlock the next tier. So as soon as I finish, it says by building landing gear, you've unlocked new blocks. Right. So now deconstruct this because I no longer need it. And if I now press G, go into progression, next to the landing gear, I now have access to a passenger seat. I could put that passenger seat on this block somewhere, anywhere. I need an interior plate. And then if I need to recharge, you can literally just walk up to the passenger seat and sit down and it'll recharge. And then you could actually get away with entirely deconstructing this. What this wouldn't do would be allow you to regen health. So if you get really damaged, you would keep that damage. You wouldn't actually be able to regenerate health without a medical room. The survival kit is a medical facility as well. But you would either die and respawn. Oh, and respawning would be terrible at this point because you would not respawn in the same place on the planet. So you would literally have to look for these GPS coordinates and run there. If you have a medical room, you can actually respawn at the medical room, so that is what we will be doing next. Now, do I chop this up into multiple videos? I think I do chop this up into multiple videos, so for my Twitch watchers, stick around. I'm going to be doing the next video immediately. For YouTube, I'm going to be ending this one here. It's already 2 hours long. It's way too verbose, I know, but that's just me. So use this as a tutorial or don't. That's up to you. But if you did like this video, hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of my content, hit that subscribe button. Makes it nice and easy to find my channel, my stuff, all in one place. If you'd like to catch me live, hit that notification bell, because me going live is very random. It's random times. Don't know when it's going to be. It'd be a really good idea to actually get told, hey, Quivz is live. If you really didn't like the video, hit that dislike button. I could understand why you didn't like the video, because, I mean, I did attach a tag to this that says it's a tutorial, and it is. It's just an extremely verbose one in the way that I normally do it. So you can use this as a guide, but there are better, shorter guides out there. I would recommend one, but I don't know one off the top of my head. If I find one, I'll pin it in the comments and say, okay, if you're really just looking for a tutorial, use this. But I'm not going to go looking for one. Otherwise, you can, within this game, literally press F1 and pretty much everything is here. So, yeah. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.